Nobody saw it coming. That is the honest truth. You had 50+ million people glued to their screens, expecting football, expecting halftime fireworks, expecting Bad Bunny to do his thing on the biggest stage in American sports, but what nobody in that stadium and nobody watching from their couch could have predicted was the moment Pedro Pascal walked out onto that field like he belonged there and started moving his feet like the whole crowd was his living room. People lost their minds. Social media exploded, and for the next 24 hours, the internet had one question it could not stop asking. How did that even happen? Well, buckle up, because the story behind that moment is even wilder than the moment itself. Welcome to Pop's Showroom, where we bring you the stories behind the headlines. If you're not subscribed yet, hit that button right now, because this story goes deeper than anything you've seen in the mainstream media. Let's go back to the beginning, because context matters here. Bad Bunny performing at the Super Bowl halftime show was already a statement. This was not just a concert, this was a declaration. A Puerto Rican artist, one of the most streamed musicians on the planet, standing at the center of American entertainment's biggest night and saying, loudly and without apology, that Latino culture is not a side dish, it is the main course. The entire production reflected that energy, from the set design that recreated a Puerto Rican home, warm and familiar and full of life, to the guests, to the crowd, to every single beat that shook those stadium speakers. Bad Bunny came to represent something bigger than himself, and apparently, he was not the only one who felt that way. Pedro Pascal, the Chilean-American actor the world knows and loves from The Last of Us, The Mandalorian, and a filmography that has made him one of the most recognizable faces in Hollywood, had been watching the cultural wave that Bad Bunny was riding for years. And watching is too small a word. He was inspired by it, moved by it. Because when you are a Latino who grew up navigating American spaces that were not always built for you, watching someone like Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio, a kid from Puerto Rico who never changed his name, never softened his accent, never diluted his identity to fit someone else's idea of what success should look like, step to the top of the music world and own it completely. That means something deep. That hits different, as the kids say. So, Pedro did something that most Hollywood actors with his level of fame would never do. He reached out, not to ask for a favor, not to negotiate a cameo, not to plant his flag on someone else's moment. He reached out through his team simply to say, I'm here if you need anything. You need someone to carry equipment, run errands, help with logistics, whatever you need, I'm available. Pure, no-strings-attached support from one Latino icon to another. He was not angling for the spotlight, he was not trying to be seen, he just wanted to be useful to something he believed in. That kind of humility from someone at his level of stardom is rare. It is genuinely rare. And that gesture, that quiet act of solidarity, is exactly what set the chain of events in motion. Now, here is where the story gets interesting. Pedro Pascal showed up to the Super Bowl that day the same way millions of regular people did, as a fan, as a spectator. He was sitting in the stands, watching the game, feeling the atmosphere, probably eating something, definitely feeling the energy of the crowd, living his best life with absolutely zero expectation that his night was about to take a sharp, unexpected turn. He had made his offer to help. He figured maybe they would call him for something small, something behind the scenes. He was not sitting there rehearsing dance moves. He was not mentally preparing a performance. He was just watching football like a normal person, which makes what happened next almost too good to be true. Someone from the production found him, just like that, in the middle of the game. They came to where he was sitting, pulled him aside, and walked him backstage. No long explanation, no time for questions, just come with us. And Pedro Pascal went. He walked into backstage territory, and suddenly he was surrounded by people who were very much not regular spectators. Young Miko was there. Jessica Alba was there. The energy was electric and intense and completely different from the casual crowd he had just been sitting with minutes before. This was the inner circle. This was the engine room of the most watched halftime production on the planet, and Pedro Pascal was standing right in the middle of it, probably still processing how he got there. Then came the instruction. Simple, direct, no room for debate. You are going on stage. Not to wave from the side, not to stand in the background looking cool. You were going on the main stage of the Super Bowl halftime show, and you are going to dance. In a segment called La Casita, which recreated the intimate, joyful warmth of a Puerto Rican home, complete with everything that makes those spaces feel alive and full of love. That was the mission. Go out there, dance, feel it. The stage, the crowd, the moment, all yours. Go. And here is the part that really gets you. There were no rehearsals, not a single one. While every other performer in that show had spent weeks drilling choreography, hitting marks, learning formations, Pedro Pascal had roughly enough time to take a deep breath before walking out in front of the entire world. What you saw on his face during that live broadcast, that wide-eyed, slightly stunned, absolutely electric expression that had everyone talking, that was not performance. That was not acting. That was a man genuinely experiencing the magnitude of a moment in real time, too fast to pretend otherwise, too overwhelmed to play it cool. What you saw was real, completely unfiltered, human real. He later laughed about it, calling himself an idiot for not processing what was actually happening fast enough. Picture that, Pedro Pascal, acclaimed actor, Hollywood heavyweight, beloved globally for his ability to command any scene he is in, calling himself an idiot because he walked toward the Super Bowl stage like it was just another Tuesday before his brain finally caught up and said, "Wait, do you understand where you are right now?" That self-awareness, that ability to laugh at himself in the most public way possible, is exactly why people love him the way they do. He is not performing relatability, he is just actually relatable. But underneath all the laughs and the improvised dancing and the pure chaos of how it all unfolded, there was something real and weighty at the core of that moment. Pedro Pascal standing on that stage with Bad Bunny was not just a fun surprise, it was a symbol. Two Latino men, one from Puerto Rico, one with Chilean roots, both navigating an industry that for generations told people who looked and sounded like them to shrink, to assimilate, to trade their identity for access, standing at the very center of American culture's biggest night, together, unapologetically, in front of everyone. That is not small. That is enormous. And the fact that it happened organically, born out of a simple gesture of one man reaching out to support another, makes it even more powerful. This was not a publicity stunt. Nobody engineered this for headlines, though it absolutely owned them. This was what happens when Latino culture builds itself from the inside out, when artists and icons and people who carry the weight of representation show up for each other without needing a camera pointed at them first. Pedro Pascal showed up to help, not to be seen. And the universe, or maybe just Bad Bunny's very sharp production team, decided he deserved to be seen anyway. Millions of people watched it happen live and felt something they couldn't quite name, but recognized immediately. It felt like family. It felt like home. It felt like exactly the kind of moment that reminds you why culture matters and why representation is not just a talking point, but a living, breathing, dancing thing that can walk out onto a Super Bowl stage with no rehearsal and still bring the whole house down. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this situation, so please share your opinions in the comments. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay updated on this story.